Good evening, friends, and welcome back to Live Reality Games, where we make our favorite shows into reality. We are here this week to talk about the Survivor 41 Episode 4 breakdown that just aired. So if you have not watched this yet, friends, you have to turn this off right now because we are going to spoil everything about this amazing, I think, pretty amazing episode.
Yeah.
And I am super stoked because my name's Kirk. I'm your host tonight. You've probably seen me on one of these before. But I have two very special guests that you maybe haven't seen in a while that I got the privilege to watch play Survivor live at the biggest LRG, in my opinion. It has the biggest challenges for sure. And that is Survival Challenge. With us today, first up, someone you watched dominate season 6, I think it was.
Mm-hmm.
And the winner of the first coveted Cobster, someone who played nearly a perfect game, was one vote away from that elusive perfect win. And I have to say, that was our friend Hannah, the podcast. Did not vote. With us today is Kourtney Trout. Welcome.
Thank you. I'm excited to be here. What a good intro. Yes, Hannah, when you see her, give her crap about that vote. I still am just a tiny bit bitter about it.
Okay.
But
well, you did get 6. That's more than enough.
I know. I'm happy with it, but.
So it's been a while since I've seen you. How are you? What's new in your life?
Yeah, so I'm a stay-at-home mom living in Iowa. And yeah, my 5-year-old keeps me busy. And I'm expecting number 2. So yeah. So just dealing with pregnancy life.
Oh, congrats. I had no idea. That's amazing.
Thanks. Yep. Another girl will be making her arrival in February. So
a future Survivor player, probably.
That's my hope. Yeah.
Oh, that's cool. I feel blindsided right now. I had no idea. That's so awesome.
Yeah.
Also, a man who needs no introduction if you are a Survival Challenge fan, but you might not recognize him because he's wearing so many clothes tonight. He's the iconic fan favorite and finalist of season 7, Louie. Welcome to the podcast.
Hello, who did not play as nearly as a perfect game as Kourtney did, but I'm still here.
But played maybe the funniest game I've ever watched.
So entertaining.
It's great to be here. Thanks so much for having me, everyone.
Absolutely. Thanks for joining us. And Dustin just said to Kourtney, I take it Hannah is off of the name list for your daughter.
Oh. I love Hannah. No, we're good. But I occasionally will bring that up to her. But.
Fair. But we're not here just to talk about Survival Challenge.
Yeah.
But since it's on my head and I just talked about it with these guys, I do want you guys to know, if you ever have any questions about Survival Challenge, you could always message any of us. I have never played, but I've been at the last 3 behind the camera as one of your commentators on the live feed. So if you ever have any questions about it, send me a message. But for those few of you that have already been asking me when are auditions, you are looking at casting starting on January 1st, 2023. And it's competitive, folks. This is not an LRG you're just going to get into. So, you know what? Let's take a moment. Like, Kourtney, how did you find out about Survival Challenge, and how did you get cast?
Yeah, so I found out about Survivor Challenge about 2 days before the applications closed. My brother told me about it. I think he had seen it on maybe Spencer's Instagram or something. And so we're both huge Survivor fans. And so I whipped a video together and applied. And I found out I got accepted a couple months later, and I was super stoked. It was, super fun experience.
And if you guys don't know the connection, our podcaster that we've had covering Sequester and just was on, was it last week or 2 weeks ago, Luke is Kourtney's brother. And as you know, he played Coco Pele and placed third. He was literally one immunity challenge away from winning that game. So I like to say it's in the blood of this family.
And he played with Louie, so.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. Louie, same for you. How did you find out about Survival Challenge and how did you get cast?
Well, I certainly heard about Survival Challenge via social media. I had done another live game the year before. I did Survivor New York. And when I did that, I kind of became really tapped into the live reality game world. And because I'm such a Survivor fanatic, I'd seen a lot of posts about Survival Challenge. So after doing a little more research, I saw that applications were open. So I applied online and did an interview and found myself in Macomb, Illinois.
In the cornfields.
In the cornfields.
I don't know if there was corn your season. It's like every other year they have corn.
I mean, there was corn. I feel like there's corn everywhere.
There's definitely corn my season, so.
I think the corn seasons are better than the soybean seasons because you can hide amongst the corn stalks. So that's my theory. I'm going to apply some year where there's corn and not soybeans because I'm 6.5 feet and I can't create a spy shack unless I have that. Okay, enough about Survival Challenge. You can message any of us right here if you want to know anything about it, and we can help you in the casting process. But we're here to talk about episode 4, Survivor 41, and I am just super excited to hear your guys' opinions about this. So, Kourtney, I mean, it just aired. What's your takeaway right now? How are you feeling?
I thought it was a great episode. There were so many good moments in here. I mean, the Blue Tribe trying to throw that challenge so hard, and Nasir just like single-handedly dominating that whole challenge cracked me up. And yeah, just like all the scenes with Shan, I feel like we saw kind of a different side of her tonight that really surprised me. So I found just like the dynamics of that tribe interesting to like, I feel like we uncovered a lot this episode. I didn't realize like her and Ricard were so close. So I'm loving this season. There's a lot of twists. But I like all the like mix of the extra vote, steal a vote. I think it's making them think strategically in a different way that they haven't before. And I'm enjoying that.
That's really great to hear because there's not a consensus right now in the fan community about the advantages. There's some people who are totally against it. They're like, it's too much. It's taking up too much time versus the people that I think kind of are super duper gamers, people who have played before that are like, bring it. like we love the challenge. Louie, what's your take from tonight's episode?
Well, this episode was delicious. I loved every second of it. And I think what I really loved about it, if we're going to talk a little bit about the advantage world, is that this episode kind of really felt old school, where we didn't start this episode with a 20-minute, let's go to this weird island and talk about things in the middle of the night and, X, Y, and Z. It was like we got some camp life. It started off with a big explosion. And then we went to a reward challenge, which I don't think we've had a reward challenge all season. Where, and I love that the rewards were like, classic, like, oh, here's this jungle man who will come, and then second place gets like the rainbow fish. Like, that's it. You got one fish. Like, that felt very old school to me. And I loved that because, aside from the big Heather moment, like, I feel like we got every little thing that we loved about Survivor. It wasn't super advantage heavy, but the advantages were still talked about. And we had character development. We were back at camp. I loved it. And we had a big move at the end. So this episode for me was 10 out of 10. Love it. You get to watch it later. Not going to lie.
Absolutely. I feel like this episode I could totally rewatch as well. I feel like this is my favorite episode of the season so far, which is a good trajectory for a season to be on. And there's so much happening. I mean, you guys have literally brought up all of the mega points, but right after the last week's tribal, we see Brad get blindsided, but it's not just Brad. Jeannie also gets blindsided,
Mm-hmm.
and she literally trips on the way to camp, and then she trips all over all of them. She's like, Jeannie is tripping at this point in the game, and she's like, I don't know who to trust. You do your own thing. I'm gonna feed myself. You feed yourself. And I feel like we've seen that attitude happen before in players. Like I'm thinking of Jane, albeit maybe a little bit more negative, but we've seen this type of attitude before, and I think it sometimes can work in a reverse fashion.
Have you guys watched South Africa Survivor? Because this scene with Jeannie reminded me a little bit of Chappie's from the most recent season. So like he's on the bottom of this tribe, like gonna be voted out, and he's kind of doing what she's talking about. Like he's fending for himself, he's feeding himself, and it ended up working out for him. I don't know how well it's gonna work out for Jeannie, but I don't know. I just made that connection with her little spiel. So
I totally see that. I am a huge South Africa fan. I love the edit.
yeah.
And the edit this season kind of reminds me of South Africa because they don't tell you everything. They want the audience to be blindsided. Now, if you go over to a couple other podcasts that are really popular, a lot of fans out there want to know the whole story. They want to see why people are voted out. And I keep suggesting that maybe CBS should really consider longer episodes on All Access, where you could almost do like a more blindside edit for the television, and then in maybe an All Access, give us the secret scenes that would give us the full narrative. But there's a part of me that also thinks that if they tell us everything, we just will know too much to make it interesting.
Yeah, it's fun to have the shocking moment at the end when you're not quite sure who's going home, and it's fun to be blindsided with the players. So
the part that really blindsided me at the start was seeing different sides of people's personalities. Like we knew Chantel's kind of been the, like, what do they call it? The mafia pastor. And she's got her song, it's so cute. But she kind of goes off on Jeannie right at the start. And this did not seem like the fun-loving mafia pastor that I've seen before. And she drops a bombshell, literally, and I don't even think 3 minutes had passed in this episode. And she goes, by the way, JD, you didn't know that Jeannie, you didn't know that Brad had an extra power, whatever. And I was like, girl, what are you doing? What?
I thought the same thing. I was like, oh, this is so bad for her game. Just so surprising for her to snap on someone who's understandably upset because they're blindsided. And instead of like trying to console her in like a gentle way and kind of get her back on board, she just snaps on her. And I don't know, like tries to make her feel better by letting her know that her closest ally wasn't telling her all of his information and that she wasn't really his number one. It's like she's feeling low, and then Chan just comes in and like knocks her down again. So I'm not really sure what her thinking was with that, but I don't think it was a good move.
My take was that she was trying to, like, obviously it's a very heated moment, and I think we've been there before where there's kind of an explosive tribal council where somebody is left out of the vote and they come back with the tension is high because, after a vote, somebody's going to be out of the loop. And the stakes were so high that she just she had to give a reason. Like, this was why I reacted the way I did. What I found the most surprising, and not that I agree that Shan did that, was JD's reaction, because JD was so mad about that. And what I thought was surprising was that he was mad that she was lying, but he lied first. Like, the only reason why he revealed that he had this extra power last week was because Shan caught him with, the parchment in his pants, So to me, I was like, well, that's kind of hypocritical because you were doing the same thing.
See, I was more on JD's side with this one. I could see where he was coming from more, because it's like she guilted him so hard about that she made him feel so guilty that he gave her his advantage. And then, he finds out, well, she's not telling him all the information. So I would be pissed too. And that's why I was so surprised later in the episode that Shan was able to convince him again to give her his extra vote. Blew my mind. I don't know what in the world he was thinking, but I kind of took JD's side on that one. Yeah.
I feel like this episode is kind of like Chantel figuring out how to fix the tiniest mistake she made. I mean, this isn't even a massive mistake to explain that somebody else had an advantage, but I still think that Chantel should not have told the rest of her tribe about that advantage.
Yeah.
And instead, it's almost learning a lesson that she blamed on Brad earlier. It's like Brad went to make that move, but he probably should not have told Chantel. But in her defense, I feel like she uses this episode to kind of fix that mistake and put herself back in the steering wheel, basically. So we get to the first reward challenge of the season. This is episode 4, Louie. So I think this is day 8 and 9 or 7 and 8, somewhere in there. And they have not had a reward challenge yet. And just like you said, they get, is it worth playing for? This is my question for you. Is it worth playing for the Fijian expert or the most beautiful fish in the world?
I mean, the expert, he's climbing up this tree and going like he's supposed to be teaching them, and he's going face down this tree. And I'm like, are they really going to learn that? Like, are they really going to go do this right now? Like, basically the reward was that this guy came in and made them a feast. Like, he caught them fish, got them coconuts. Like, I don't really think they learned too much from him because it didn't seem like the skills he was showing them were actually realistic for them to apply.
I would have loved to see him teach them how to climb the tree like he did.
Yeah.
That would have been an epic scene.
Yeah.
Well, I was kind of surprised, to be honest, because, you know, we see Ua win this challenge and they've already had all of this issue and everything. And then we have JD, who's basically the wannabe Malcolm, the wannabe Ozzy. And this dude is climbing a tree like Ozzy. I totally expected to see people up and down the tree. But this is what I was really surprised. And I don't know. This is this is the first episode that I can remember where we get a Survivor recipe. So, my friends, you want to take a brown coconut, open it up for the milk.
Wait, you got to karate chop it in half.
With your hand.
It's with your hand.
I know. Ugh.
But then they cooked their fish that they just got miraculously. And then somehow they found limes. And I got to tell you, Louie, this is a song, right? Lime in the coconut. Like, this is
all that. It is.
I really didn't know this was a thing. I'm a Michigander. We don't know things up here. But it's like, okay, so this is the recipe. Apparently this is delicious for Survivor. Take the lime, wherever you get this, you squeeze it into it's got to be a brown coconut, they said. And then you dip your fish in, and it sounds like curry.
It's like kind of like a math equation to me. I'm like, I don't get how it works, but I trust it.
I mean, when you're that hungry, I'm sure it's going to taste great.
Yeah, exactly. You just put anything in my mouth and I'd be like, tastes like curry, tastes like curry.
So true.
Coconut lime fish, curry.
That's
Yeah.
so true. And for a second, I gotta say, I know this is a different tribe and it's later on, but they're talking about food, and then we see the baby turtles, and I was really scared. I was so scared.
I don't think they're allowed to eat turtles, though.
That did not even cross my mind, but that would have been horrible.
That's against the law. They're endangered.
Yeah.
But
we saw Colby steal a piece of the Great Barrier Reef in season 2. So, I'm like, I don't get past these hungry people.
I think PETA would have been on that, though, if we saw a baby turtle disappear.
Oh, I'm sure. I was terrified of baby turtle soup for a second there, I'll tell you that. But it was really cute, too. I got to say, Yasa really brought the kind of comedy and humor this episode that Survivor can be known for. I was loving Evie's previously on Survivor narration
Mm.
as she talked about their challenge. And then we get Jeff Probst splitting his narration into Evie's. And then you
Yeah.
get Tiffany. That's what does she say? She's like, and I'm kicking ass because it was for food.
Oh yeah. Tiffany is growing on me. She makes me laugh. She's a great character.
I have to say, I love Tiffany because she reminds me, she's from Long Island. She reminds me of every Long Island woman I've ever met. Like, she's, and like, I know like some people we're not about her the first few episodes, but I've been Tiffany on board the entire time. She is so familiar to me, and she's really starting to be like grow into her own. So Team Tiffany right here.
Yeah.
She got that basketball, it looked like on the first try.
Oh yeah.
And I have to say, when they were talking about this 4, it reminded me of my season of Survivor Challenge, our PZ4, because they were talking about their core 4 and how tight they were. And you could see that they were all kind of having this kumbaya moment. They were really pumped up. They were getting some wins. And it just totally brought me back to like my PZ tribe, just like losing and losing and losing, embarrassing losses. And then we pulled out a couple wins. And like, there really is something to experiencing that low and then hitting that high that really bonds people. So I think this group is one to really watch. I think there's some great players that I could see one of them winning. I think they're going to stay pretty strong.
That's a really cool prediction. Who do you think out of the 4 of them? Let's say it was a final 4. They're all at the final tribal council. Kourtney, who would you vote for?
I mean, I love Evie. I think Evie has been a really strong strategic player. Everyone seems to love her and trust her. So she would get my vote right now. But I think Xander has a really good shot. He's getting kind of a golden boy edit, and it seems like he's really likable too. So I don't know. I think the 2 of them have a good shot.
It's so interesting that 2 of these players are 2 of the youngest players ever to play Survivor, in Liana and Xander, and potentially making this core 4 work. And Kourtney, I have something to add to that. This is a personal philosophy. I think that number 4, which is so hard to make happen in Survivor, but if you can make it happen, you really get some magical opportunities. We've seen the Foa 4, the I2 4. Oh gosh, I'm gonna mess up. But there's other groups of 4 that are so distinct, and somehow they're able to make it work even when their backs are against the wall, kind of like you guys did on a PZ, as you guys got closer to merge. I don't know what it is about 4, but it seems like it's a magic number to try to hit in Survivor if you can maintain an alliance.
Well, and I feel like in Survivor too, a lot of times the tribes that really struggle early on, I feel like those players end up being the most bonded and sticking together rather than the tribe that wins all the challenges, but they haven't gained that trust through voting and going to tribal. I feel like they tend to turn on each other a lot quicker than these tribes that struggle in the beginning. So I actually, I don't think it's a bad thing to be a losing tribe in the pre-merge, because if you can really get that group going, I think that trust goes really far.
Absolutely. I want to talk a little bit about Louie. Louie's been under-edited for 3 episodes in a row, Louie, and we finally, I feel like, got to see some of the internal workings on the Blue Tribe. Some of the conversation really surprised me because the target shifted all over the place, and Erica wants Sydney out.
Yeah, I mean, so we haven't seen much from Louie. And this episode, I feel like, was really preparing us for that Louie Tribal Council. Like, we saw all their strategy so we saw the Erica being like, let's get rid of Sydney. And, talking about how Sydney is explosive and reactive and emotional. And you saw her trying to, make fire and then completely blow up that she couldn't do it. And then the turning the tides onto Erica. Erica's sneaky, and we need to get her out because she's throwing out Sydney's name. And then we see them at the challenge trying to throw the challenge. And I always think it's just like Survivor gold when a tribe tries to throw a challenge and they just cannot do it. It's perfect. And because I think going into this episode, everybody assumes that, maybe Heather might be the easy first boot of this tribe because she may be seen as somebody who may not be able to pull their weight in challenges. And, even in the beginning of this episode, you see the reward challenge where she's really struggling and she has that very, they have that very sweet moment for her. They're just like, you tried your best, but sometimes your best on Survivor gets you voted out. Like, we don't want to go. But this tribe was kind of like itching to be like, hey, we kind of want to go to tribal. Maybe they should put Heather in the immunity challenge and they would have gotten their wish. But it would have been very interesting to see Louie, because I think everybody is kind of dying to see Louie. Like, they have never gone to tribal council. What would have happened? Would have Erica been the target? Would have it worked? Would have it, where was it going to go? I don't know. I think it probably would have been Erica. They were setting that up to be for Erica at least, but I don't know if I want to see Erica go there. I kind of like that she's a little bit sneaky, and maybe that's what Erica needs, was the target to be on her for a hot second, and then now that some time has passed, it'll shift to somebody else. That's what happened for me at Survival Challenge. And sometimes that's good to happen.
Yeah, Nasir too, I feel like his edit's been really interesting, because I feel like the first episode, he got a bad rap. Second episode, everyone loves him. Last episode, they're back down saying, oh, we don't really need Nasir. We need to get him out. He's having these late night talks. And then this episode, like, everyone loves him again. So it does seem like the dynamics in that tribe are shifting a lot. So I don't think it's necessarily set in stone that like Erica's destined to go if they go next week, because it does seems like they're just antsy. So yeah, Nasir's been a really interesting character for me. His edits really been a mixed bag. So
I love the metaphor of don't rock the boat. And at the very beginning of this sequence, you see the blue tribe literally rocking the boat.
Capsize. I thought that was a metaphor for something. I was like, something's going to go wrong, because that is a metaphor. They're shit over. And, it was a metaphor for them trying to throw the challenge. And then,
yes. Which is the funniest part. Like, Survivor, the editors this season have been so fun with these little things, but then it's a surprise reveal. It's not exactly what you think. I really thought Blue was going to lose. I was like,
I did too.
They're giving it to us on purpose. And then the edit at the challenge we can talk about, but I thought it was phenomenal. Literally the best challenge edit in maybe seasons. So good. But I also want to say, I think Don't Rock the Boat was the puzzle answer of the rebus from last week.
Yes, it was.
What is happening here? I feel like this is the Twilight Zone now. I'm so confused.
Oh my God, you're so right. Are they giving us clues?
Are they? So let me ask you guys, did either of you do this week's puzzle?
I blinked and missed it.
Okay. I saw
Tribal, right?
It was at Tribal. There was a red E, so ready, and then the number 4. So like ready 4. And then a giant rebus that I have no clue what the word is. So
I have to go look, because I looked down for 1 second, and by look down, I mean I was probably sipping some wine. And
yes. I have this student, Miss Dawson, who is an expert at the Survivor rebuses. So I think if you watch this, Miss Dawson, you should keep trying. Someday you can apply to the show too, and hopefully you'll get on. She's a whiz. But yeah, I love the conversation between Deshawn and Danny. I felt like we finally got to see the difference between these two. And Deshawn has the attitude of like, throw it. It's important for us. He's kind of impatient, kind of like Erica, but ironically, like he now wants, Erica out instead of Erica's target of Sydney. But Danny, being a professional athlete, literally calls throwing a challenge a sin. And like, I love it and hate it when survivors use kind of moral codes to play the game, because it's just messy. It's great.
I'm all for throwing challenges. So I was team Deshaun on this one. I was ready for him to throw it. I think that there can be a lot of benefit to throwing challenges. So I was really hoping he'd pull it off. I wish Danny would have helped him out a little bit, but that might have looked way too sketchy.
It's so
Louie,
funny. I'm so against throwing challenges. The best laid plans always go off because he's like, we're going to throw a challenge. Let's go do something. And then you're just not in control of it. Like, wait until you screw it up.
If you have a tight enough alliance, though, and there's some concerning players, like I threw challenges when I played Survivor Challenge because I wanted Dr. Jill out and I wanted Evan out, and I did not want those two getting to merge. So, like, I didn't like way obvious throw it, but I definitely didn't try that hard. And I do think early in merge throwing challenges can be beneficial too. Like, people aren't going to see you as a huge threat. So I'm all for it.
I
don't know.
The problem here is that they've never gone to trouble before, so you don't know where the lines are. So it's like, that's such a risky move to throw a challenge when you've never gone to trouble, because you don't know, it might backfire on you. And I'm not willing to take that risk just because you think you might have somebody on your side to be like, yeah, we're going to throw it and get this person out. But what if you're the person that they're trying to get out? And I would kick myself so much if we threw a challenge and then I'm the one who goes out. Like, I would.
Yeah, it's definitely risky.
Off. But if you have a trustworthy alliance, then I would consider it heavily. But I wouldn't. Let's be real. I'm so terrible at some challenges that, like, you might think that I'm throwing them anyway.
Yeah, you're right, though. I feel, if you haven't gone to tribal and you don't know where those lines are, there definitely is a much higher risk than later on. But I was all about it. So
yeah, it's so tricky. I've played a few Survivor games, and I can honestly only think of one time that we successfully threw only one time I threw a challenge. It happened to be a one world scenario, so we could talk to people on the other tribe. And so little cross tribal alliances started to get created. And it was during the swap. And it ended up working in our favor to throw the challenge. But what it ended up being was both tribes trying to throw the challenge at the same time. So it literally was the messiest, worst challenge.
Oh, man.
I'm glad there's no episode.
3 days.
Oh God. And it was like a bowling challenge. I mean, it wasn't bowling, but it was like a ball. It's like Survivor, there's a ball and there's things and you hit them.
Mm-hmm.
And nobody.
That would be hilarious.
In the right direction. Like,
I mean, if that happened, if that happened on the show, that would be gold. That would be TV gold.
Oh, well, maybe they should try someday, because it's a disaster. And then I played in BC season 5, and it was, again, right after swap. I had an idol, and somebody from the other tribe was like, throw the challenge. And I remember being like, well, I'll be safe because I have an idol, but I feel a little selfish. I want it later. So we didn't throw the challenge.
Yeah. Pros and cons.
Pros and cons. Also, let's make another connection to Survival Challenge from this episode. I don't know if you guys noticed, but there was definitely a Laura Simon hair sighting.
Yes, there was.
Yes, there was.
And I missed it.
So you could totally tell if you know Miss Laura Simon from Survival Challenge. Great player.
Mm-hmm.
Been a volunteer for years. I look for her every episode at the start of challenges. I'm like,
I swear, I'm like a mom.
Yeah.
I have my phone on. I'm like, I'm gonna get a picture. And I'm so invested. I can't take a picture fast enough.
Oh, okay. So Dustin is telling us that there is a Survivor Michigan season where this two teams both attempting to lose the challenge at the same time must have happened.
Man.
Oh boy. Okay, so we get to the immunity challenge, and it's like the same thing all season. It's start in the water, get in the water, get to the land, and do a thing.
do a puzzle or a throwing thing,
Yeah.
pretty much.
Let's do a thing.
Do a thing. And so we have the traditional let's land 3 rings on the angled thing. And it's actually a lot more difficult than you'll perceive because the things that the ring lands on are they're very similar sizes. So you have to throw it the right way, otherwise it's never going to land. And there were some funny moments in this challenge. I got to tell you, I loved Evie swimming.
I'm going.
So funny.
Like so
swimming the wrong way.
Like, he was swimming full on.
You got to give it to them. They were like full on 100% in the wrong direction.
It's so full. And here's the thing. She suddenly had all this energy because if you watch almost all of the players, you can tell they're so exhausted 8 days in because none of them can even jump into the water anymore. They're all flopping. They're like, they don't even try. Like they get on the platform and then they just fall sideways and they're like, I'm in.
Yeah, they all look exhausted by the time they got to the beach with those bags. You could tell like everyone looked gassed. And it's always so funny when the team who's trying to throw it is in the lead and they're like trying to go slow. And the other 2 teams are just like so bad and so exhausted that they still get there way before the other 2.
I think it's comical when that happens though. Because like that's just so horrendous at the challenges without even trying to be horrendous. They're giving it their all, which is like kudos, but
it's sad.
It's great. Deshaun thinks, okay, I'll take longer here. I'll tie
knots.
I'll tie knots.
He's retying.
How did they not?
It's like obviously not everybody's going to be on board, but like there's always that one person that's like, we gotta go. And this challenge, it was Nasir who was like the saving grace every time because he was like, 1, 2, 3, push and throwing the rings, but it's like screwing up everybody's plans.
I just love Nasir because of this episode and him not realizing what he's doing in this moment. But also, I feel like they could have gotten Erica on board with this idea. And I feel like this was their major fail. I don't know how you guys feel about this, but I feel like they could have gotten Erica on board.
I think you're right. I think Deshaun could have totally convinced her because she already admitted to him that like I think she admitted that she wanted to maybe throw the challenge, right? To get Sydney out when they were talking in the boat. Yeah. So I feel like if he would have just gone that little extra and convinced her to throw it and vote out Sydney.
Let's throw it.
Let's do it.
Yeah.
Yep.
Then it would have just been, Nasir on his own. He might have still been able to do it, but yeah, having Erica on board definitely would have helped.
Did Nasir get all 3 rings?
Yes, he did. Because Deshaun was like throwing and being terrible, and Nasir was basically just like, "No, I'm gonna do this." He like sunk the first 2, and then
it took a second.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And can we just talk about how JD is so funny in these immunity challenges? Like his little layups last week, and then money when he throws it this week. Cracks me up. I love it.
Being like, you scream money, you should scream tribal.
Oh,
JD. He cracks me up. He kills me.
It was so funny. I loved how Yasa, 3 different people scored. So the team camaraderie on Yasa right now must be crazy with Tiffany, Liana, and Xander landing a ring each. They probably just feel so united right now as a group. Just going more into your theory, Kourtney, about them being this core 4 as the game moves forward. Nasir, seeing him get those 3 rings when everybody around him wants him to fail is just like the most amazing television. That edit between JD throwing and missing and Nasir throwing and missing, I was convinced Blue was losing, and then the music swelled at the wrong time this time, and I was like, oh wait, and then there he lands it. I felt like they really tricked us this week.
I agree. I thought the whole episode, I was like, they are setting this up for Luvu to go to tribal. So yeah, good for them for tricking us with that edit. Yeah, I thought for sure that JD was gonna get it, but
so we see the Green Tribe, Ua, lose the challenge. JD sitting right now with his extra votes, and we have Jeannie who's on the outs, and Shan and Ricard, who we are going to find out, I think, very, very strongly that they are a strong duo, just like Jeannie and Brad were. And I love this part of the episode. There's so much gameplay that happens between the four of these players, and I just love that nobody gives up. Everybody keeps trying.
Yeah, for sure. This section was fascinating. Like I made some notes, and like there's just so many conversations between like Jeannie and JD talking about her throwing the dice, and JD and Shan, where Shan kind of freaks out on JD. I thought that was the most fascinating of the conversations to me. Because even JD admits, like, he's like, Shan like freaks out and she's not even in trouble. And you could really feel that. I feel like that's where JD made his huge mistake, though. I cannot believe after she is just freaking out on him that he gave her his extra vote. Like it blew my mind. I mean, props to Shan for doing it. I think it's amazing for her. But if someone's being that sketchy and wanting me to leave my vote at the camp or give them my vote, like, to me, that would be signaling like they're going to vote me out. Like, I just felt like that was screaming from that conversation. But
I have a theory. I think if Shan was on the season with Natalie, she could have gotten Natalie's jacket. Natalie. I think Natalie just says, here, take it.
Yeah. I agree. Well, like this episode, so I was a Shan fan before this episode, but I think this episode I became a Shan stan because she did what I wanted her to do, she did what I wanted her to do last episode, which is get rid of JD when she had the advantage. But the fact that she was able to get the advantage from JD again, this was perfect. And she didn't have to use it. So she still has it, which I think is the baller move here, because they were kind of playing with the idea that like Jeannie was going to go home, but like that's just such the easy move, right? Like that's like, okay, like, yeah, you get rid of Jeannie, but then you have, then she has to give back JD the advantage. And, I feel like JD, it was just so rogue that he was going to do his own thing. He has the possibility to do his own thing anyway. So like, even if Jeannie is like, okay, like, I'm going to trust you for now, but maybe I might flip. Okay, maybe Jeannie flips, right? But I don't think JD necessarily stays loyal again after giving this, because he's just so frenetic in the way that he thinks that I think it's the move to get rid of him right now and keep his advantage at the same time. I was surprised that she didn't do that last episode.
I agree. Yeah.
I think it's fantastic that she did what she did and was able to put all like the push all the balls down the hills to get them in motion for the right thing. So like now, like Jeannie thinks like, oh yes, Jeannie's like, oh yes, I believe you now. We voted together, but Jeannie doesn't know about this extra vote at all, right? Like that's a great thing. So even if Jeannie flips and they lose a number, and it doesn't seem like they're like shaking up tribes anytime soon, they still have she still has numbers. And I think last episode was the move that she did solidified her alliance with Ricard, because when I first watched, and I want why didn't you get rid of JD here? And I think it's because it would have upset Ricard too much. And then this episode solidifies how close Shan and Ricard are. So I think she was able to pull in Ricard even closer, and then the next round still get his advantage and get rid of JD while pulling in Jeannie even closer. I think this was a amazing move for Shan. I think she's fantastic. Even if she, you know, like for some reason things go sideways for Shan, she's played a great game up to this point. And I was getting nervous because Shan, you know, in her pregame press was like, I'm going to slit your throat. I don't care. But then she started talking about earlier on, like, oh, I'm getting too emotionally connected to these people. And it was like, oh, maybe, you know, this is not what she thought it was going to be. Now we're seeing truly like that mafia pastor come into play. Like, sorry, gotcha.
I totally agree, Louie. I love watching a player that makes a move before that I totally disagree with. I was there saying, oh, you should have kept Brad. Brad would have used his powers on you, not fully realizing that once it was 4, Brad's steal a vote becomes really the most powerful thing in that group of people. And Shan isn't on top anymore. And I just could not see that until literally the end of this episode. And it finally made sense to me that, yeah, this was the way to do it. It really was take Brad out first, then JD. And I'm just so surprised at how savvy she is, how she's able to perceive the whole situation correctly, and also kind of mitigate and fix her past mistake, because JD didn't fully trust her. Let's be honest. Like, we could tell he saw kind of a hypocritical nature about Shan, and he wasn't totally feeling it. So the move she made was the right move.
Yeah, I totally agree. I thought the same last week. I thought that she made the wrong move, getting out Brad. But yeah, when she said that Ricard is her number one, and that he's been her number one, that's where it all kind of clicked for me. It's like, okay, this makes a lot more sense. Because I feel like in the previous episodes, we didn't see how close the relationship was. It seemed like she was maybe closer to JD or closer to Brad than she was with Ricard. But hearing her verbalize that, I feel like makes last week's move much more understandable. And yeah, I mean, for her to get JD's extra vote is great. I'm curious to see if she can keep this up, because like she's playing so hard and she's playing so well, and it's not even merge. I don't know. Like, do you think that she can keep this up for the entire game? Because I don't know. I think it's a lot to try to sustain.
Her foot off the gas, because Survivor's all about like timing, right? So I think she's had to play this because that's the way that, you know, she's had to go to tribal. There's not a lot of numbers to work with. I think they need to win another challenge. So to bring this back to Survival Challenge, we never had a swap, which was like our season's theme. We never swapped, and we were anticipating a swap, and we were playing for a swap, but we never had a swap. And you have to be playing both ways. You have to be playing for a swap, and you have to be playing not with a swap. And you have to be adaptable. And I think Shan is playing the perfect adaptable game. Like, if I swap and I'm stuck with Jeannie's going to feel good with me. If we don't swap, I feel good with Ricard and I feel good with Jeannie, and I have my options. And I don't remember where I was going with this, but
I no, it's a connection to your experience, what you've been through, Louie, and how you played the game, because you're always thinking there's going to be a some kind of switch up, and that was a huge twist your season. I feel like, this is my theory. I posted on it on my Facebook page. I don't think there's a swap this season.
I don't think there is either.
Okay, you guys are with me then, and maybe you guys see it the same way. I can't figure out how the idols would work if they swapped.
They would have to totally reconstruct the idol thing. Okay. I don't think they're swapping.
Okay,
unless somebody's like on it, finds it, and like Xander has to be like, I totally thought, like, you know, butterflies are your dead relatives saying hi. Like, you know, like the other day I was just like, broccoli's just, you know, tiny trees or whatever. Like, just talking to himself. Like there's
Don't forget about my goat on the AstroTurf.
on the AstroTurf. I want to see the Louisville person have to say the goat on the AstroTurf, because like if I was pretending that I didn't know what that was, like my natural reaction is like, is everybody okay? Like what the hell is that? And like I say crazy crap. So like this is not anything that would be out of the norm for me to just like blurt out. And anybody who saw me in Survival Challenge knows I say weird shit. Even on the Upon tribe, like people were like, what are you talking about? So to me, I'm like, this is fine. But for everybody else who doesn't necessarily talk bizarrely, like this is just a strange concept to have to fulfill if there are swaps.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If everybody started saying it honestly and you didn't know about the clues, I'd be like, are you guys having a stroke?
What's happening?
Especially week after week, and they keep saying the same crazy things.
That's the thing. You have to repeat yourself. I would hope, and I'm not saying I would, but to catch on to someone like Xander having to say that butterfly thing again, I'd be like,
yeah.
I don't know if like if I was on season 41, if he kept saying it, if I would put together like this has to be some kind of thing, because they've never done that before. So it's not in my realm of like Survivor knowledge that they're trying to put in. I would just be like, what the fuck is this guy talking about? Like, oh my god, can you stop with the butterflies? Like,
he played it off so well though last week.
He did.
I thought it was very smooth and not like as awkward as I thought it would be. Whereas Brad was just like
Brad was awkward.
a hot mess.
But to me, like if I was witnessing Brad's moment, I'd be like, oh, he's just trying to make like a funny for TV. And that was painful. They'll edit that out because that was very awkward. I'm gonna smile and pretend that was funny, but like what the fuck was that? You know, that would be my reaction. But I mean, we see here we are. If Survivor does this again, they're gonna have to wait a while, because anytime anybody hears anything that's fucking bizarre, either that's gonna be a target on their back.
Oh yeah.
You're gonna be like, that they're looking for an idol. And that's bad for people like me who say weird shit to begin with.
I have to say though, this beware idol advantage, it's way more of a disadvantage than it is an advantage. Like I feel like it's not an equal thing. Like for the people who have found the clue, it's been horrible. Like Xander hasn't been able to vote. Brad got a target on his back and got voted out. So I feel like Lufu's, kind of doing the right thing, not find. I'm surprised that they haven't found it because Deshaun got the heads up about it, but it might be for the best. I don't know. Seems like it hasn't turned out well for anyone.
It's kind of like, how like batteries, they're like, don't give them around children because they swallow them. And now there's all those ads like, we've coated our batteries with like very bitter tasting things so people don't swallow it. It's like, now advantages for me are covered in these bitter things.
Yeah.
If I see a beware advantage, no, I'm not fucking doing it. I will give it to somebody else so I know that it exists and somebody else has to do it. I'm not doing it. I am not sacrificing my vote. I am not sacrificing this X, Y, and Z in order for this advantage. It's not happening. I mean, or is it? I don't know. I'm not giving my strategy away.
Yeah, it's interesting because like I love all of the prisoner dilemmas with the extra votes or the steal a vote. But yeah, this idol beware advantage. I just feel like there shouldn't be such harsh consequences for someone who is putting in the work to find the advantage, and now they're getting punished for being the one who is putting in the work and being sneaky. I don't know. That one's kind of rubbed me the wrong way. Yeah, I feel like it's way too harsh.
I'm with you on that, Kourtney. Totally.
So
the second beware advantage didn't seem to be quite as harsh as this first hidden advantage. The second beware advantage again is the one that the cameraman must have just dropped off at the fire. So it was the.
Wait, can we talk about that for a second? That bugged me so much. It was literally like, oh, it might as well have been in my shirt. Like, what was that? They don't have to look for it. That was crazy. That's insane. They might as well just been like, by the way, Brad, look down at your foot. It is right there. Like,
I mean, I agree. But my only thought was that maybe they didn't want the typical people who always find advantages to be the ones, like the same kind of people going every time.
That's skewed. if you're on Survivor, you should be
Yeah.
looking for advantages. There shouldn't be any people that shouldn't find it. Everybody should be able to find an advantage, and regardless if you're like the typical type or not. Like, it's just crazy. Don't put it on the fire where like, oh, Brad gets up first and he sees the fire first. That is way too easy. And I feel this is somebody who's not been the person who found the advantage, and maybe I would love it if I found the advantage.
No, I mean, I totally agree. It was way too easy, but I wonder if maybe they just wanted to give some of the people who don't typically find those things a chance. So it's not just the same people building up all these advantages and idols. So
do it in a different way. That to me, it was just like, it was like a parent giving like, you know, open up for the airplane. Here's your advantage, because you wouldn't normally look for it. Like, why are the people who are playing the game being punished for that? You know, that's my 2 cents.
Yeah, I mean, and the way I looked at it is a little bit similar to Kourtney for that one. I thought maybe they're trying to, at this time, maybe they're trying to give it to the person who's the most helpful, like the person who's starting the fire in the morning. But then again, it's not an advantage.
And put it with the bamboo pile where they're going to go grab bamboo.
Yes, absolutely, Louie. Like, that totally makes sense. But I want to point out something you just said earlier, because you said you haven't found any advantages. So it sounds like you have a Survivor bucket list, just like JD.
Yeah, I do.
And JD mentioned
where it is. No.
Oh, yes. I carry it with
a whole book. Oh my goodness.
There's a lot I want to do. So JD talks about, you know, oh, he's got so many things. He hasn't been playing like he perceived he would play, but he doesn't want the perspective of being outside and thinking about his game. But he should think about the words he said that earlier that afternoon when he was talking with Shan and said to us, "Don't be a dummy." And then he's referring to keeping his advantage at camp. You should always bring it. Like, I don't want to be a dummy. I don't want to be an Ozzy or Malcolm and not take my advantage to tribal. And then literally in that same conversation gives the said advantage away and literally makes the big dummy move that he didn't want to make. It's so hard for me to wrap my head around what JD, I feel like JD had good instincts, but he had no follow through.
Terrible execution. I mean, like, that was, he didn't understand that the dummy move was to give the advantage away and not take it to tribal. Like,
well, and what was confusing is that he seemed sketched out by Shan. He's saying like she's being really sporadic. She's being really paranoid when she doesn't need to be. And so I don't know if he was thinking, well, this will calm her down, but I feel like if someone's acting that erratic and like desperate for you not to bring this advantage to tribal in your hands, then that should just be like blaring alarm bells in your head that you need it more than you thought you did. So that conversation, I almost hesitate to give Shan so much credit because I almost feel like it's more JD's stupidity. Like, I just feel like there shouldn't be any scenario.
But Shan played where JD's stupidity. Like, she knew that he might be stupid enough to give that away, and he did.
True. I mean, I think Shan's a great player, but in this situation, I feel like it was more JD's blunder than it was Shan's genius. So I don't know what he was thinking with that. You just
have to think, like, if you're not playing Survivor and being like, listen, like, strip new school Survivor way, drop the 4, keep the 1. Your trust should be in the vote, right? Like, that's what Survivor, the skeleton of Survivor is. Like, I will show you my loyalty with my vote. It shouldn't have to be my extra vote, my advantage that I earned, that I found, that I whatever. Mm-hmm. My loyalty is my vote, just like your loyalty to me is your vote. Why must I give you my advantage for you to trust me when you're giving me nothing?
Especially after the beginning.
Alliance is we're all working together. Like you say, we're all going to vote the same way. You're not taking my extra vote. I'm bringing it to tribal. You're not taking it. Like the negotiation has to be more on his front. So it is his blunder, but I also do think that it was Shan being able to use his, like, knowing that he was going to blunder to take it from him. Because if I was JD, I would have never given that away. Because what does the conversation look like if JD goes, "You're not getting it"? Because if it's JD goes, then JD should have the instinct to say, "Listen, I don't think she's buying it. I'm going to Jeannie and being like, we're using my extra vote. We're voting at Ricard like you want." So that's 2 on me for Ricard, and you, that's 3. That's the numbers, 3-2 right there. Ricard, who you want out, we're in there together. Then Shan is to us, right?
Absolutely. That's what I thought too. I don't know why JD is so dumb. But that would have been, yeah, you're right. That would have been the way for him to go. And Jeannie is so desperate. What else is she going to do? She wants Ricard out. So
she put Ricard on episode 1, and we were all like, blah, 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 why the hell did she put Ricard? We never saw why she put Ricard.
Yeah. And when tribes are that small, having that extra vote is so powerful. Like Survivor seasons in the past, the extra vote hasn't really meant anything. But I feel like what's interesting about it this season is that there's so many extra votes steal a vote, and the tribes are staying so small. So it really does make a huge difference. Like, he could have guaranteed his safety if he would have kept that extra vote. And it's so painful. I love JD. He was so entertaining.
As someone who's never played actual Survivor and has never had an advantage in like the survival challenge, don't give your advantage away. Don't give it away. Use your advantage to your advantage. Unless it makes sense to give it away. I don't know. It's all situational. It's all situational.
But there was nothing for Shan really to trade back. So basically, he gave up his power. Shan knew that her power was kind of tenuous in that moment based on what happened. I kind of have a question, is if JD does not give his advantage to Chantal and decides he's taking it to tribal, do they still vote out JD, or do they change their mind and vote Jeannie out instead?
I think they go for Jeannie. I really do. Because I think at that point, if they know JD is keeping that extra vote, they don't
risk it
to cross. Yeah, they don't want to risk it. So I kind of think it switches, but
I agree. I think you're right, Kourtney. I think if JD goes, I'm not voting, because no, and that it depends on if Shan is able to pull Jeannie over, right? So like if Shan goes like, I don't trust JD now because he won't give this to me, and she goes to Jeannie, listen, we need to get JD out right now. And Spills being like, he has an extra vote, he's too powerful. And Jeannie's like, you know what? You're right. We need to get that through. Like, I'm going to be with you. Or it depends on if Jeannie's like steadfast on getting Ricard out, because if it seems like Jeannie wanted Ricard out really bad. And if JD's forthcoming with his extra vote to Jeannie, Jeannie's with JD. If JD does not tell Jeannie about the extra vote and Shan spills it to Jeannie, Jeannie goes with Shan and Ricard. And then if they want to turn on JD, they do. That's where I think the linchpin is here. Is if JD is forthcoming, he has to be honest about his advantage. He knows Shan knows about it. If JD was using his noggin, he'd go to Jeannie and be like, listen, I have an extra vote. Let's make a big move and make it seem like it's Jeannie's move. You want to make Jeannie feel good that she's making the move. Like, oh my God, yes, I can use my advantage. Look, JD's coming to me with this thing and we want to use X, Y, and Z. If Shan is like, listen, JD has an extra vote. He hasn't even told you about that. He's not trustworthy. Let's get him out right now with the double vote. We can get out his advantage and JD at the same time. You're with us at blah, 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 blah. That's where I think the move swivels on, is JD telling Jeannie that he has the extra vote.
Mm-hmm. No. Bam. I have a question for the two of you. For both of you, what's your take on Ricard? We've talked about everybody on this tribe, but we keep glossing over Ricard. I have a very strong opinion, but I'm more curious to hear from the two of you. What are your guys thinking about him right now?
I'll be honest, I do not like him. I don't get a good vibe from him. I feel like whenever he has confessionals, he comes across really smug and kind of arrogant to me. And I feel like there's no warmth to him. Like, I feel like a lot of the other players have something really endearing about them, something personal. And I just don't see him having that, I don't know, like genuineness. Yeah. I feel like I was a little surprised that Shan and him were so close because he seems a little standoffish. He seems a little bit stuck up to me. So I'm not a huge Ricard fan. I don't see him making great relationships at the merge. He's just not like a warm, endearing person like a lot of these people are.
As a gay Puerto Rican man, I very much related and was rooting for Ricard. And I think Kourtney is right, where the thing is that I feel the most reservations for Ricard is that he is coming off very cold in these episodes.
Yeah.
And I think he's strong at relationship building, but was only really strong with doing that with one person, and that person is Shan. And not to say that he isn't likable. I think we're seeing that he's kind of that, like, I'm going to slither and be, villainous. It almost feels like he's putting on like that, I'm willing to be cutthroat to anybody, and like, oh, I can make relationships, because I think it seems like he can get along with people, but if you're not in his immediate alliance, it's clear who you are. Like, I think he can be and fine. Like, it seems like he could be fine to Jeannie, but clearly Jeannie is not willing to be like, I'm not getting rid of Ricard. He's my number one, or he's nice. It seems like Jeannie's going like, we can't trust Ricard. Look at him. He might be nice, but he's not nice to me when it's time to like get my vote. I think that's going to be Ricard's biggest obstacle going into. He needs more people, because now that it's just Shan and Jeannie is going to be the first person to be like, do not trust Ricard. And Shan's going to be thinking, I have Ricard wrapped around my finger, but don't trust him because he can be sneaky. But that being said, nobody except for Jeannie, and we never got why, has even said Ricard's name. So that's a good thing, because if Ricard was just as, like evil, sneaky as we're seeing, you think more people would be like, let's get rid of Ricard now, because he must be useful in some way. Or like his relationships must be useful enough that Shan is going, no, not Ricard.
The thing is, though, it's one thing if someone's intentionally trying to be villainous, like they're like, oh, I want to be the villain. I mean, in a way, like Sydney owns it. Like, she owns being kind of the bitchy, mean girl. She accepts it, and she knows that's who she is right now. But I feel like Ricard, though, I feel like he doesn't come across like he wants to be a villain. It doesn't seem like he's trying to be a villain. It just seems like he just has.
That's so interesting you say that, because to me it feels like he's trying to be a villain. To me,
I don't get that impression.
I want to be cutthroat. I don't know. I mean, it's just difference of like viewing it, but like to me, it seems like it's almost he's putting on the villainous act more than he like needs to be.
Eric doesn't want to be villain. Yeah. With that, yeah.
Yeah. So Ricard, I've been kind of bipolar with Ricard this season. His backstory, I really loved. I really love a family man. And there's been things even outside of Survivor this week, like social media things that I've seen Ricard do that have really made me kind of question if that's really the content of his character. I don't want to say more about that, but just posts he's putting on other Survivors pages. You can go check that out yourself.
Am I gonna have to do some
I'll just put it out there. This isn't the place for this. But in regards to the episodes, he's clearly getting a negative edit, right? We don't see him saying the nice things. We see him saying the negative things.
Yes.
So at first I was kind of thinking, this is going to sound weird. It's kind of with the drop the 4, keep the 1. I was kind of getting Richard Hatch vibes in the sense where he's in the conversations. He's slightly manipulative, but he's not taking full control of the game at the start of it. But the thing that's different between him and Richard, I feel like, is Richard still had warmth at times. Like you see him
warmth from Ricard.
Yeah, we haven't got any, and this is 4 episodes in. I mean, I can't think of a single moment that was a positive edit on Ricard yet since they talked about his backstory. And that's it.
Yeah,
I agree.
Yeah,
I think that goes in step with what Kourtney's saying.
I mean, he's on my list of people I don't think has any shot to win. I just don't. I don't see a path for him. I don't see a story for him. I don't see people wanting to vote for him. I mean,
you have to turn around, come merge his persona that has been shown to the audience at large that he's going to win. I feel like he can continue with this villainous edit and maybe make it far, but I can't see with this new era of Survivor, they're trying to paint like these new, like great people. I don't have any doubt that he's a nice person, but like outside of Survivor land, I can't see America going behind like, oh, Ricard's the person we're rooting for because he has such a positive outlook, you know? I see people rooting for Heather, who has basically been invisible except for her, you know, her moment in the challenge today, rooting for her to win over Ricard, who we've seen way more and not in the greatest light. Not that he hasn't played a bad strategic game, aside from the fact that he's been super cold to us, but I don't know what the players are seeing because everything we've been seeing has been almost confessionally cold, you know?
True. Absolutely true. You know, it just goes to show. I mean, I think things could change. I think there are players in the cast that if Ricard sat next to, maybe not on his particular team right now, but if there's other people he sat next to, maybe there's an opportunity for him to gather some votes towards the end of the game. You know, and we talked a little bit earlier about Chantel making all these moves. I have a theory that in Survivor, these big moves at the start of the game don't help you win the final jury votes because the final jury wasn't a part of these big moves.
Right. Pre-merge is very tricky. Unless your pre-merge, like the rest of your pre-merge tribe is there to advocate you towards the end of the game. A lot of the time in Survivor history, pre-merge doesn't, unless there's like edge of extinction where like people in the pre-merge were a part of those larger conversations, it's hard to get people on board. That's why like the people like Erica, where it's like they might be sleeping in the beginning, but like they're they're sitting there waiting for their shot to get there because once it's merged, it's like the whole game opens up. And unless you've had an impressive pre-merge and an impressive merge, sometimes the pre-merge is not as heavy, unfortunately.
Yeah. Yep, I agree. It's tough because the pre-merge, I know at least for me in Survivor Challenge, there were some huge votes. There were some big moves I felt like that were made on my part. And then it is tough because you get to a jury and you're like, I did these big moves, but a lot of these people weren't involved in it and it doesn't mean a lot to them. And it's tough because like Shan, like she's putting in good work, like she's making great moves, but in the end, it probably doesn't weigh as heavy as it should.
That was the same for my survival journey experience. Like my tribe lost just so much in the beginning. Like,
yeah.
Beginning relationships like really formed the way that I was able to play the end game. But because, you know, the two tribes and because we didn't swap, like no one saw my pre-merge game at all. Like it was just like, they only knew me from like the challenges they saw and then the post-merge. And it's like, you're playing a different game post-merge than you are pre-merge. Like you learn how to play your post-merge game, how your pre-merge went. So the people who were sleeping and not doing much pre-merge are like, I want to wake up and play the post-merge because I've been sitting here doing nothing pre-merge, not nothing, but like whatever, you know. But the people who have been playing pre-merge are like, all right, I need to calm the hell down. I've been playing too much. Let me sleep a second, because it's like, let the people who want to play a hot second, and they're just going to be fighting with each other. And then I'll come when I need to make my move, you know. But it's like, then it's your job later on, if you make it to the end, to be like, hey, like it looks like I wasn't really playing, but like I was playing by doing X, Y, and Z. And that's what makes this game so amazing and lovable. It's like you have to be able to convince people that you were doing things, even when it looks like you weren't doing things. And it's, you know, and not everybody speaks to the way that you want to play the game. Like you want to root for people that you think, you know, tug at your heartstrings of like, I would do this, or I would want to play like this, or even if you weren't doing this, like I appreciate that you're doing this. And, you know, if you don't have those like empathy skills to be like, I would do it like this, but I need to be able to take myself out and put myself in your shoes and be like, oh, I understand how that move makes sense. Then it's like, it's a lost cause, you know?
That's so true. I feel like, well, this episode was definitely a lost cause for JD, as we see him eliminated in, I was surprised, a 3-1 vote. This is the 5th, let me count it right, 5th unanimous vote of this season. And I think that's shocking to super fans, because they've been blindsides to us at home.
Mm-hmm.
And if you go back, every single one has been unanimous. Well, except for the first one where there was 2 missed votes. But I mean, guys, this is crazy. Insane. That they're still shocking us. And I still can't believe Jeannie voted with Ricard. Like,
I have to say, I have to give my boyfriend credit here, because I was texting with him through this episode, because I was like, oh my God, JD, like, you know, fool me once, shame on you, fool me twice, shame on me, or whatever. And he was like, no, fool me once, shame on you, fool me twice, shame on me. And I was like, that is going in the podcast I'm doing later. Shan on you, Shan on me. So thank you, Sean.
I love it.
Yeah, that's good.
Has Jeff Probst been saying this? So when he usually says, now is the time to play your hidden immunity totem, he said an advantage.
He's been saying it the whole season. He's been saying it.
Okay.
Every episode. I noticed that too. So I'm really curious.
I was like, he said advantage.
What? So is he talking about the shot in the dark or something different?
We haven't seen anybody.
I don't know. I'm still confused on how the shot in the dark works a little bit. Because I thought at first that they did it in the confessional box, right? Like they decide that they're not going to vote.
That's what I thought too.
That's what they are doing, yeah.
But then with the whole Jeff like idol or advantage,
I think the
advantage I don't know. I'm really confused about it.
No, I think if they're doing the shot in the dark, they do it while they're voting. I don't think they do it after the vote is read.
You know what I'm thinking, Louie, is because they put the dice in the thing and then they pull a piece of paper out. Maybe they're not allowed to read the paper until when he says.
That's true. I mean, who's to say? No one's played it yet.
I don't know. I'm curious though, because so far we have not seen said advantage in the game. If there is a advantage that you would play at the same time as an idol, this is brand new. It's kind of exciting.
Yeah, I'm really curious to see what Jeff is talking about, because there's obviously something.
There's got to be something, and I can't wait to see what it is. JD leaves saying, it sucks so bad, at least my hair looks cool. Brother, it does. You have the best hair, buddy. It looks great. Really quick, we're going to take you back to episode 1. We have our cast draft with Jillian and Lance. If you have not looked up Reality Rally, one of the biggest Survivor charities is back. Definitely check it out. They are going to have an awesome event this coming up year. And if you get a chance to head out to it, you can. But sorry, Jillian, you just lost JD and you started with 6 people. And Lance and I started with 5 total, because we did our draft after the first episode. So Lance and I took the first 2 boots from the game. And I got to say, I'm still in it. I got 4 people. I don't know. What do you think, Kourtney, about my team?
I mean, I really like Deshaun. So,
Me too.
the others I'm not so sure about. But I was loving what we got from Deshaun this episode, though. So I have high hopes for him going forward. I think he's going to be a fun character to watch. And Sydney so far, I think is going to be a good villain. There's not too many super villainous people. I feel like this season, so or at least, I guess there are a few people who are trying to be villainous, but I think Deshaun's probably your best bet.
I think so too. I'm still hoping for a genie Final Four a la Lunch Lady Denise. Just like get her to 4, and then let the challenge be something like sorting and stocking shelves at the store so Jeannie can win immunity at Final Four, and then she can choose the goat who sits next to her at Final Tribal. But I'd still tell you, Lance, I think you got the strongest team, and I don't think it's going to let up anytime soon. Before we go, I want you guys to tell me, who is your MVP for episode 4, Survivor Season 41? Louie, who is your MVP?
Shan. It was Shan. I'm sorry, but it was Shan. It was Shan. If you don't say Shan, you're wrong. It was Shan.
I mean, I've got to say Shan too. I mean, she's the mastermind of that tribe. She's what all of the decisions have centered around Shan. Every episode, everything in their tribe, it centers around her. Like, she's made every decision. So I feel like you can't give it to anyone else but her.
If it's not Shan, you watched the wrong episode.
That's so true. I think I'm going to give mine to somebody who could come in maybe 2nd or 3rd place. And I'm going to give it to Nasir for winning that immunity challenge in some ways for his team and taking home a win that he probably had no idea until tonight how
that was a courtesy, Kirk.
That's true. I mean, he really saved Erica potentially on that one. So
Erica should be kissing Nasir's feet right now.
So true. I hate it when things like this, like a person does some good even though they don't know it's good, and then it comes back to bite them later. I hope that doesn't happen to you, Nasir.
I love Nasir. There's something really endearing about him. So I hope he sticks around. I know.
He's so... If I was playing with Nasir, I'd be like, we're not getting rid of him. How could we get rid of him? Like, there's no way. He's useful. He's fun. He's playing the game. Like, I would want to play with Nasir because he's one of those people. I'm like, yeah, I mean, it's dangerous because to get that, if that goes far, that's a dangerous thing. But like, I want to keep Nasir because that's not somebody that you come in contact with every day, And I don't know. But that's just me. So
Guys, this has been a blast. We've gone over like 22 minutes than we usually do.
Sorry.
I swear I could talk to you guys about this forever. I love the way your brains think about Survivor, and I feel like this has been such good vibes the entire night. Louie, is there anything up and coming for you with games, LRGs, or is there a way people can get a hold of you if they want to contact you?
Well, there's nothing coming up with me about LRGs, not yet. But maybe in the future. I don't know. Grandma went into retirement after Survivor Challenge. And it was like, I'm here to the end and win. Who cares? But we'll see. Maybe I'll come out of retirement at some point. If you want to contact me, I'm on Facebook at Louis Anthony. That's Louis Anthony. But I'm not very active on that. So the better place to find me is on Instagram, which is Louie DiPaolo, LouieDiPaolo. Slide into those DMs. Love to talk to Survivor. Love to talk to anybody, really. Just somebody please talk to me. I promise I'll be wearing clothes. It'll be fine.
But if you don't want to see the clothes, just wait until the episodes come out.
Yes. No, the episodes are out.
Oh, I always forget, Louie, because it's like there's some seasons that
I
have
know.
episodes.
Our
but
season is like
Yeah.
half done, and then
Yeah,
they
yeah.
just like forgot about it, and it's just hanging like at episode 7.
They're
Well, the
coming.
last day of my confessionals were lost, so most of my confessionals are closed, unfortunately. So those who have been waiting to see me unclothed, you'll just have to see those in the challenges. But it was really hot during my season, so
Yeah.
I took a lot of my clothes off. Sorry.
It was brutal. It was
It was really
brutally
hot.
wet.
It wasn't raining like Kourtney's season. Kourtney's season was really, really wet, and I probably would have been clothed for that one. But my season, there was like a heat wave, and I needed to take my clothes off.
Oh, it was terrible. You could like eat your breath. The air was so thick. It was disgusting. It was.
I was only there for like a day, and it was I'm glad. I would have rather taken the rain and a little bit cooler than I would the heat, because even just watching that was not fun.
There was like kidney failure on my season.
There was.
Spoiler alert.
Oh, right.
You know-
I forgot someone did go to the hospital.
Yes, it's
Oh,
true.
yeah, that's
It's
bad.
true. And he survived, everyone.
He survived,
persevered.
and he was on a season of sequester, so that should give you
Yes.
clues to who that was.
Yeah.
There you go. The big reveal. He's fine, and he was on another
We
show.
love him.
We do.
He survived.
Kourtney, we know you are. Congratulations, you're expecting, so I'm sure that's going to
Thanks.
take up. And I'm just curious:
Yeah.
Are you going to stay retired as a Survivor champion? Are you one and done?
No, I want to play again. I see, if it
Cool.
weren't for COVID, I would have been all over trying to play something last year. I would love to play another LRG. I would, if Survivor Challenge ever has like a returning players, I would for sure come back for that.
Yeah! Oh my God, I got so excited.
Can we align, Kourtney? Can we do this in front of everybody?
Alliance made.
Listen, your brother broke me off, so I think it's only best that we align.
Yeah, that might get if Luke played, that could be interesting. But I mean, Luke and I are just praying that Survivor does another blood versus water season, because it would be awesome.
I would be rooting for that.
So yeah, I hope to play. So probably not
Absolutely.
next year, but maybe the year after. So,
Well, my friends.
but yeah, I'm hoping if. Oh, I was just gonna say Survivor Challenge this year. Hopefully, I'll be there, volunteering or rooting people on. So, yeah.
Same thing here. My plan is to go back to the cornfields in Illinois and have a wonderful 5 to 6 day event. Looking forward to it, just like every year. It's always so much fun. And guys, if you haven't been to Survival Challenge, it really is. It proves that Survivor has turned into a sporting event. There are people there. There are fans. There's people screaming at you. They get so excited when you win a challenge. And I can't imagine being a player like you guys in that circumstance where there's not just your tribe and not just production, but an entire group of people like staring at you the entire time. Like,
it's so worth it. It feels like a sporting event, really. Like, if you want to play Survivor, this is the place to do it. Like, you have people rooting for you. It's like a sporting event. It's so much fun. It's so much fun.
Yeah, any chance I can talk about Survivor Challenge, I do. And I have told so many friends to apply, because it's a great experience all around. Like, the challenges are so high quality. You really do feel like you're getting a taste of playing Survivor, and it's so fun.
Much. I was looking at Tribal Council. You look out and you're like, Jillian Larson is staring back at me. What Survivor fever dream am I in? It is nutso. It is truly the next best thing to Survivor. It truly is. Like, there's no topping it at all.
oh, if you haven't played and you want to play, you need to apply for Survival Challenge January 1st. Get your video ready right now. Save it, edit it, make it look nice and neat, and hopefully we will see you there in 2022, 23. What year is it?
22.
22. It's hard to keep
COVID,
track
I
the
don't
last 2
know.
years, you know.
2022, January 2022.
Yes, it's that year. Yes. And with that, friends, that is our breakdown of episode 4 we suggest you watch it. If you just listen to us, you should still go watch it. It's amazing. And as always, if you want to support our little Chan, because we could use it, head over and follow us on Facebook or whatever you do there. But most importantly, click this little YouTube link, subscribe there. That's going to make the biggest difference for our panel of hosts and co-hosts and creators from literally all around the world. And we're hoping to build this channel to be something of value to all of these different groups from around the world. Thank you guys again for being here. It was so fun seeing you and talking with you tonight.
So fun. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. And like always, guys, and like always, we'll see you soon. Bye, guys.
Bye.